Hello and welcome to this very special Rangers Review episode. We're here on a lovely Wednesday night. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be done earlier in the day, but I've got all sorts of problems at home as usual. So Maurice was very, very kind to push me back. Thanks, Mo. Much appreciated. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Not done much, to be honest. Potted about the garden and whatnot. It's actually kind of a welcome break for doing house chores and whatnot. So don't apologise.
Well, it's much appreciated, mate, and it's great to have you on. Obviously, we had a chat earlier this season when you were still at Cowdenbeath, and obviously all the stresses and strains of working in the Lowland League on a shoestring budget. So I'll maybe take you. We can have a wee chat about that later on, but we'll also going to touch on Rangers and what's happening at the club at the moment. Pre-season, obviously, a time of real excitement. How does a pre-season differ manager to manager? How important is it as a professional footballer to get it exactly right and set the foundations in place that set you up for a successful season?
I always feel that no matter who the manager is, and you know, I remember I've played, I've been finished for 10, 11 years. Sports sciences went through the roof. But I always found the most important part of pre-season was staying fit and not trying to get fit in the first week and then you're pulling calf muscles and all sorts like that, because it just sets you back. You know, since the Dick Advocat era, you know, the day one was touches of the ball. There was no running and crazy stuff. It was all timed, all monitored. I mean, they've got real-time data on these boys. So if anybody's going into the red zone, which I think is overplayed, to be honest, then, you know, you get pulled out of training or these kind of things. I don't know exactly how it is at Ibrox, but I'm pretty sure the guys will be getting the best of gear, the best of training. So for me, I think nowadays managers kind of go to that with the sports science stuff. Of course, they look over it and they'll drive the standards, but they do very much. They don't micromanage their sports science stuff. They're guided, and the manager then just puts on his tactical input and stuff. So these sports science guys are kind of hybrids now. They're like kind of coaches, kind of. So they get it. So it's I'm pretty sure Rangers have got the best of gear up there.
Yeah, and it's part of it looking ahead to when you have peaks and troughs in the season in terms of fitness. You know, I've seen. Listen, before even sports science, you look back to Alex Ferguson, there was always that thing about the turn of Christmas into the new year. All of a sudden, Man United would hit a new gear. And presumably that was something Fergie, it wasn't just psychological, it was built into their fitness. But Rangers have this massive start where you want to get ahead of Brendan Rodgers. You've got that first game at Ibrox, so it's so important you win that. And on top of that, the Champions League qualification. So is it almost like you have to build to a peak earlier and maybe go harder in the pre-season than you normally would? I don't know. Is that something you'd be thinking about?
But you also got to consider as well, Alex Ferguson's early days, he had probably 7 weeks holiday, players, and they've been on the booze for 7 weeks. Rangers players have had about 3 weeks to themselves, you know, and you see half the players nowadays, they're actually training when they're on their holidays. So players don't come back in poor shape. It's not like you're needing to shed 8 kilos. Well, majority of players. You know, you obviously get the odd one or two that'll push the boundaries, but in general, these boys are super athletic nowadays and super professional. So it's not so much a big job to get them back in top condition again. So again, it's incremental. It'll be tactical. They'll be bedding in certain scenarios that they want to see from certain players in certain positions. The modern Rangers player is a specimen, so I wouldn't be kind of scared about going into that first game of the season in terms of from a fitness point of view. Anyway.
Yeah, in terms of Michael Beale and what you've seen so far over the course of 8 or 9 months at the helm, there's been a significant change, I'd say, from Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and also a bit of a change from his time with Steven Gerrard. It's not exactly the same setup. What have you made of it?
I like the cut of his jib. I think he brings a. I think managers can be a bit too rehearsed in their interviews. he says things that people go, oh, should you have said that? But you know what? Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's thinking it. So I like that kind of ownership and taking the bull by the horns in terms of when players are not in shape or whatever. He calls it out. And you can't do it all the time, of course, because, you know, but players see other players messing around. You know, when the manager comes out and calls it, he then goes, "Whoa, he's on this." So I quite like his style. I'm certainly liking the recruitment that we're seeing of for the last couple of months. I like the size of the boys we're signing. I like the ages of the boys we're signing. And I'm actually looking forward to it. The start of the season, to see it catch a light and just steamroll ahead. I do see goals in this Rangers team. Of course, we need another, maybe one or two in the building. But no, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of these guys who are coming in who are clearly exceptionally talented. You look at Sam Lammers, you don't have to look at too much video to see you've got an exceptionally two-footed, technically gifted, suppose technician would probably be the right word, the guy who can play 9 or 10, has had a bit of a dip in his career, but you know, went for 11, 12 million euros to Atalanta, and we know that they don't sign diddies. You look at the other boys that they've got in, Dujon Sterling, a good age, Jack Butland, a good age for a keeper, good experience. You need that in that position.
Yep.
Dessers is obviously, if he comes in, which we're expecting him to come in, 28, but again, you need a striker who's going to be a bang on, going to give you what you need at Rangers. You can't be putting in a kind of project player in there.
No.
And then Kieran Dowell, another one, probably still got a bit to grow in terms of his potential, still got a lot of quality on there. Listen, Maurice, you know that more than anyone, there's a lot of scuttlebutt in the industry. I mean, have you been hearing good things about some of these boys from people who know them?
It's one thing coming into the Bonnie new training ground and getting tours around the stadium and all that, and that's all when that ball starts rolling at Ibrox, that first game of the season, and you're no one up in the first 20 minutes, then we'll see who the Rangers players are. And that, for me, playing with Rangers is not so much just about technique and ability, it's about your mental capability, mental strength, mental toughness. Can you handle no starting, but still need to support your teammates? Can you handle going to the shop at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're getting abuse every day? You know, these are the things that, you know, will determine how well these new signings do. Because, you know, if you sign 8 players in a normal season, you're lucky if half of them are actually bang on and you nail them. So, you know, let's hope that every single signing does hit the ground running. But yeah, time will tell, and you will see it quite quickly. You'll see it within the first 6 weeks.
Listen, everyone looks back to your era, Maurice, and thinks about the incredible quality that came in. The Ronald de Boers of this world, the Michael Malls, Arthur Newman, people like that. But there was also players that didn't work out. There was also players who came in with huge reputations that didn't quite spark. I always remember like looking at someone like Gabby Amato, for example, incredible quality in terms of the ball at his feet, but didn't quite suit Scottish football. Was there anyone that stood out for you as a total, what the kids would call baller, a great player technically, quality-wise, but just didn't quite fit the criteria that you've kind of talked about, whereby it kind of stood out as an example of how it doesn't really matter how good you are, the mentality element of it needs to be right?
Yeah, again, we're talking about two different eras. It's 20 years ago. I mean, Everybody's an athlete now. Everybody's doing 100 metres in 10 and a half, 11 seconds now. But to answer your question, it would be Nuno Capuccio. When he just won the Champions League, he came in and he asked for my number. He said to the manager, I want 21. So I got pulled into the office for my question. He says, look, Nuno Capuccio wants your number. Can you give him it? And I was like, no chance. And wee Jimmy Bell was like, did you say aye to that? I said, no, Jimmy. I said, that's my number. I've loved this number. I've won trophies in this number. And wee Jim was like, good, because he wasn't getting it. And that's because obviously wee Jimmy's not having it. So he played in green and white last year. You're not getting that strip. but I'm not meaning to denigrate Capuccio. He's a good player. But yeah, if you're not going to run and you're not going to fight and you're going to give everything for this football club, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember Ronald de Boer talking about it, about, he felt a little bit put out by the fact that the fans would really, really cheer for a player running for a ball that they couldn't get to try and stop it going out the pitch.
That was me.
And his view was, why would I do that? I'm going to conserve my energy for a moment where I can make a decisive impact.
And that's Ronald's brilliant football mind, but you've also got to read the room. When you're 3-1 up, let it run out of the pitch. When you're 1-0 down or 1 each, you go and make sure you run and get that. So there's a bit. Ronald is bang on with what he's saying there, and I think most top players have that mentality. But yeah, you've got to read the room.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of Brendan Rodgers coming back, does that add a sort of fissure of excitement, do you think, to this season, given Beale worked under him, I think, at Chelsea and certainly at Liverpool, when Rodgers was the manager and Beale was just the youth coach, and being part of the management team that was going up against Rodgers in the first instance, I think, when Steven Gerrard was the boss there. Do you think that adds an extra level of kind of intrigue to this season?
No.
Do you feel confident about it?
Not at all. Listen, don't get me wrong. I do think Brendan Rodgers has shown and proven over time that he's a very, very, very talented football man. Arguably the best of British. And I think as much as I want Rangers to do well, I've also got a sane football mind that I recognise when somebody's very good. I hope it's not as a successful period this time around for him. And I hope Michael Beale goes toe-to-toe with him and for a footballing sense and go and actually take the bull by the horns and attack Celtic for the first minute of that Old Firm match, because Rangers fans are craving it. Rangers fans are craving going to a Tannadice or going to a Dens and wiping the floor 4-0, 5-0. We've not done it enough. And I think with the players that we're getting in the building now, the forward players especially, I think you're going to see a way more free-flowing football for Rangers.
Yeah, it seems a lot more fluid what Beale's trying to create. Mo, I don't know if you agree, just tactically, in terms of the amount of these players that can play multiple positions, that are comfortable taking the ball in tight areas, two-footed, which is an undervalued element, I think, in terms of the going up against a low block and breaking down a team that's sitting deep.
But is that not a prerequisite of being a Rangers player being two-footed?
Well, it probably should be, but I think if you look over the last 10 years, the journey they've been on, sometimes it's just not been the case.
Well, the stark contrast for me between Gio's side and Michael Beale's side is people running beyond the ball.
Yeah.
You watch Man City. We always use Man City, right? When any central midfielder or any inverted fullback gets the ball and his body language is facing forward, runs. They're constantly trying to get in behind you. Now, I'm not talking clipping 60-yard passes to get in behind, because that doesn't work. But the minute somebody gets foot free and it's wee darting runs in behind all the time. And what happens is centre backs get lower and full backs get lower, and then the space creates into these wee 10 pockets. So it's again, when you get into the 10 pocket, the opposite side of the pitch looks to get penetrations again. And I see that in Michael Beale's team. Obviously, the full backs are so high that we play with kind of the inverted wingers, like 2 10s. But they're not coming towards the ball. They're looking to get beyond it, which I quite like. So, yeah, it's critical at any top level. You've got to have runners beyond it.
Yeah, listen, this is a problem as well. It's time immemorial. You'd have faced it. Teams always sit in against Rangers and Celtic, both situations. They're always going to try and defend what they have and get away with a draw. But I'm assuming that it is a bit of a culture shock, that you grew up with it and you probably felt that at youth level. But if you're coming in and there's a lot of signings coming in from a different club, I mean, Sam Lammer's a perfect example. Has been playing in Germany for Frankfurt, and has been in Italy with Sampdoria, a team that's not been doing particularly well. He's not going to be facing a lot of deep lying defences, but you come to Rangers and you're facing it week in, week out. That must be part, I suppose, of almost the culture shock. What are they doing here? All these teams playing like this, and you just have to grind it out and, I suppose, find the creative spark from somewhere.
Yeah, but if you look at every top league in Europe, the top 3 teams are facing low blocks every week.
Yeah.
Every league. So what the manager will have is the manager will have certain criteria. When we're in certain areas of the pitch, here's the movements we're looking for. And just keep doing them. Just keep doing them. I mean, Celtic played last year. They got it wide and they smashed it first time to the front post where they had a runner at the back, one penalty spot, one edge of the box. It wasn't rocket science. The minute they got foot free in the wide area, it was getting fired first time. You weren't able to take a touch. That was their kind of their setup. But it was strict, clear rules. So Kyogo just makes a run front post because he knows it's coming first time. And these, I imagine the manager, Michael Beale, will have certain triggers, certain positions they're looking to manipulate the ball into. I think you'll see Rangers moving the ball way faster this year. I think it'll be moving slick, shorter passes, with runners hitting the box. And obviously the fullbacks will be high. Your centre halves will basically be like midfielders. And I see Rangers having 70% possession every week.
What do you make of the defence, Mo? Because that's the one area that there's been a fair bit of discussion in terms of transfers. Left-sided centre-back, obviously they've got Ben Davies, who's had a mixed time of it. I quite like him in terms of bringing the ball out. He moves it quickly. He's got a nice left foot. Not sure defending is his forte, to be honest. Leon King, probably second position behind him. Still got a lot to prove. Still very young, still very green. Of course, we know that Suter and Goldson are fine. The problem is, I suppose, Goldson being fit for the start of the season. But I think Rangers are clearly looking for another body in there. Is that an area you'd like to see the club go and really, really strengthen it at centre-back and give Goldson a partner that you can say, there's no doubt who's playing? It's Goldson and X.
Well, there's one thing, having your criteria. The other thing is, are they available for the money you're going to spend? Because I'm pretty sure the manager would like 2 of the back 4 positions filled. But is there 5 million there to go and spend on a centre-back? How much he's spending on Davies already? You know, these are all things. It's a business. It's ultimately a business. It's not just going into a sweetie shop and just picking what you like. And it's also, are they going to gel with a Goldson? Are they going to gel with a Suter? So there's all these wee dynamics and nuances that the average football fan just says, just go and sign somebody. Well, you've also got teams in the Championship in England wanting the same players as Rangers are wanting because they have so much money down there. France, Belgium, Austria, Switzerland. You know, all these countries have got money. It's not like there's a big pot of gold. I know the manager's getting back financially. I know that. But it's sometimes not as easy as that. He's maybe tried for 3 or 4 already and they've hit the post. But they're not going to come out and publicly say we've lost out to a X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
So it's not just as clear cut as that.
But in terms of strengthening, do you think, I mean, for example, right, we go back to the 55 season, I think there was only 14, 15 goals conceded in the whole year, and they went through a period where they didn't concede a goal at the start of the season for 9 or 10 games, something like that. You're talking about goal scoring defensive records being set. And then last season, I think it was 33 goals that they conceded. So clearly the quality of the defending has, for whatever reason, and it might be structural, it might be to do with the personnel, there's an issue there that if you want to go and take that championship back for Celtic, it just seems like, just from a common sense point of view, that's an area that you need to improve upon. Now, whether or not you need to actually go out and sign players to do that or not, whether or not it's just a case of Michael Beale for the whole season being in charge, drilling them to his way of football and cutting out the stupid mistakes, because there was a lot of mistakes. I don't know. But to me, I think they need to go out and sign a centre-back on the left side that can be a firm partner to Goldson.
I always think you need 3 main centre-backs. And somebody else that is your backup that can maybe play centre-back and full-back, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But again, because I'm saying I believe Rangers will be in their 65, 70%, 75% possessions next year, there's less focus on that defensive stuff. I think Rangers are going to have the ball all the time with the better players that they have forward the park. And teams are going to be scrambling. It's going to be set plays that teams are going to score against Rangers next year. It's not going to be free flowing and slicing Rangers open. No chance. I don't see it. So yeah, it's can these people we are signing handle the Celtic games? Of years in the past, you know, when it's been too evenly matched, it always comes down to the Celtic games. Of late, when Rangers maybe struggled a wee bit, it's been dropping points, you know, Tannadice or wherever. So I think this year it'll be a lot more tighter from that point of view, and the Celtic games are critical.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look. I mean, if you look at the period of time that Beale was there, there was very, very few points dropped outside the Celtic game. Obviously,
and there was nothing in these Celtic games.
Yeah, very, very, very marginal.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so that can happen. I've been in games against Celtic that have been phenomenal, and you think you should have wiped the Flarebears today, and you nick a draw or whatever. So it's a strange fixture, but I think it's going to be an enthralling season. I think a good season for Rangers. I really do.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of confidence and a lot of positivity going into it based on the signings and the feeling that the manager's kind of got a handle on what he's doing. In a way, I don't think there was ever a feeling, with respect to Gio, who I think was a really good guy and a good manager and a good reactive kind of manager, tactician.
Yeah.
You feel that Michael Beale's philosophy is more suited to grinding out the wins week in, week out.
I think he gets it.
Yeah.
Some people get it, some people don't. Kashinya didn't get it. Doesn't get it. Doesn't smell what this football club's all about. Michael Beale gets it. He speaks well, articulately, but he speaks to the masses. He's no highbrow. He's language, and I quite like that. I think hence why I'm saying he gets it.
Yeah. Let's touch on the youth setup now. You were obviously, as I said earlier, managing a side in the Lowland League earlier in the season, or last season now, I suppose. It's gone. You notice that the B team have pulled out. I've always been an advocate of young players getting to play against men. I've always felt that was an obvious plus point. But for whatever reason, there's been political machinations been going on behind the scenes, and difficulties with the SFA and difficulties with the SPFL and getting clubs on board. Just in terms of what you saw, Mo, and while managing against them, how do you think they reacted to that environment, and what's your overall feeling about the B teams?
I think the whole thing is a waste of breath. What happened to Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, Dundee United, Aberdeen playing in a youth team league? And then when you're 20 and you play in the reserve league, playing against men. What happened to that? What was wrong with that? Because you need to put elite in something, or you need to put top level in or Premiership this, and it's all marketing. The same best players will always come through, whether they're playing in the Antarctica or whether they're playing in the B team or whatever it is. It's all fluff. It's all smoke and mirrors, Johnny. Honestly, what happened to... So if Dundee are in the Premiership next year, they've got a youth team in there and they play with the SPL teams. And if the Dundee go down and Dunfermline come up or whoever, then that then moves you forward into that. That's the setup. That's how it should be. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
I suppose I think probably what they would say is it's a financial element of running a reserve league was why it packed in, because everyone says the reserve league was fantastic. I mean, you experienced that. You'd be able to tell me better than anyone.
Of course, you're coming against a guy who's maybe been injured. So say Bobby Pett, Celtic, decent player for Celtic, was injured and he was coming back. You're now up against him in an Old Firm game. You're going, oof. We had 37,000 at Ibrox in a reserve game. It was the biggest crowd in Britain. Reserve game.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? They had the BP Cup final, the Glasgow Cup final, Rangers Celtic, not that long ago. How many people were at it?
Yeah.
That's no real life of a Rangers Celtic player. You could have filled out Tynecastle for that fixture. Why are we not putting fans into stadiums with these finals and big games like that? I don't know. I think there's something bizarre. I don't know. I don't get it. Don't overcomplicate it. Because I'll tell you what, see, when I was 18 at Rangers, I didn't want to be playing against Bonnie Rig Rose. Tell you that now. I wanted to play against Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, Celtic, Hearts, Dundee United. No, some junior team for Edinburgh. Getting kicked lumps out of it. I don't think that's beneficial. Playing on a pitch that the sand in the 6-yard area is 3 inches deeper than the grass.
Yeah.
That's no top level. It's amateur. So for me, I would go back to basics. And if you want to have a hybrid, have a 20s league. And if you're good enough, because I'll tell you what now, Johnny, see if you're good enough at 16, mate, 17, you can play in the 20s league, mate.
Yeah.
You might get bashed around and beefed, but mate, see, as soon as you're good enough at 17, 18, you're training with the first team anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're training with the first team, Johnny. Young lad divine in a minute. Train with the first team, and then he goes, by the way, you're going down to Dumbarton and you're playing in a bog against some village team. Tell me that's motivated? No chance. Yeah, if you say, oh, you're going up to Tannadice on Monday night to go and play in a reserve team game, you go, oh, nice, I like that. Absolutely. This is real life. This is proper football.
Yeah,
that's my take on it. Listen, I'm quite candid in my opinions and whatnot, but do you know what? That's what it is. I'm not going to come on and bluff.
Well, you've been through it, Mo, so you understand the demands at quite an intrinsic level, whereas we're seeing it from a more theoretical point of view where you've lived it. So, I mean, you go back to when you came through, it was a tough school and you had to psychologically find answers as well as physically find answers, whereas, I don't know, perhaps they're not tested to that same extent now as they once were.
No, I disagree. I disagree with that, and I'm not to disagree with you, but it's still the same game, still the same standards, it's still the same pressure. Because at the end of the day, mate, wherever these wee boys play, 17, 18-year-old, they want to play well, so the manager knows, and the manager sees them in the corridor. Well played yesterday, son. I heard you did well. Bang, there you go. But again, if the game was at Tannadice or the game was at Easter Road, maybe Michael Beale would go, oh, I'm going to Tuesday night and watch the game. Do you think he's going to go to some wee village in the middle of Fife and just to watch a game? You wouldn't, mate. I just think it's no realistic it's not conducive to bringing through top young pros for me. So I would go back to reserve football, and if they can't afford reserve teams and 18s and that, make it a hybrid. Yeah. 18-year-olds and you can have 3 overagers or something. I don't know.
Yeah, is that the element that you think is the most important almost, that they've got, number one, proper pros in with them to show them the way, and number two, the potential to face proper top level pros, as you used the example of Bobby Pettit, for example.
Yeah, why not? What's wrong with it? So, I don't know. Yeah.
Michael Beale was talking about it in a presser with us, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks before the end of the season. He was talking about Yanis Hadji coming back in January after an ACL. We know that that's an injury that is no joke. You're out for a long time. It takes you a while to get back. And everybody thought Yanis Hadji would come back in January. He'd be back in the team and he'd be performing the way he performed a year and a half ago or whatever. But he just couldn't get himself to a physical level. It took him 2 months because he couldn't go and play reserve team football. So he was struggling for minutes.
And consider this, Johnny. Rangers play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday. So the manager can't put on games because the B team have also got games. So you're playing all these wee diddy 30-minute games at Murray Park. The training centre. I keep calling it Murray Park. I can't get it in my head. So yeah, I totally get that. That's a hindrance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's whether it's called the B team, the reserve team, whatever, it's still the same set of players. But why are these players not playing against Hearts? Because see, when they get in the first team, they're not playing against Bonnie Rig Rose. They're playing against Hearts. Yeah. So let me smell what Tynecastle's like. So when I come in the first team, I've been here before, my mind's already thinking, I ken the dimensions of that pitch. playing on a pitch that's tilted on 3 different angles. Goalposts are sagging in the middle. No wonder these Rangers boys are going, geez, oh man.
Yeah, and that's the. I mean, listen, mate. I didn't watch a lot of Lowland League football. That's the reality of Lowland League football. I mean, it's that
brutal.
harsh.
It's brutal.
Yeah,
it's a different sport. That's what I felt. It was like a different sport.
Yeah,
but hey-ho.
And maybe that's not properly understood when we're having these discussions, because most people look at it as that sort of physical element. You know, you're playing against men. They're playing for some sort of a win bonus. Christ knows how much it is, but not very much. And that should be valuable in of itself. But as you say, probably not taking into account the actual quality of the facilities and the kind of environments. And then I think we saw ourselves, I think it was a brutal challenge that went viral on Alex Lowry, that in one of the games where I think it was 7-0 or something like that, he was just taking the piss at the end of the day in the game. Not out of badness, just because he's just like a level above the level he was playing at. Somebody snaps and takes him out and puts him out for 3 months.
Yeah, it's also a lesson for Alex.
Yeah.
Because when you play with Rangers, you've got a high level of humility as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Alex is a decent boy. So I think he'll learn from that as well, you know, shift it quick. Because at the top level, you need to shift it quick.
Yeah.
So it's, it was a shock. But again, it's a shocker. But you're dealing with a guy who's a scaffolder or he's digging ditches and he's coming up against Lowry. So it's this wee guy, wee top player for Rangers. I will see about that. He just gave me the run around for 90 minutes and he's rolling the ball or whatever. Of course you're going to be like that. So it's, and I don't think, but again, if you're playing against a Hearts midfielder, he's got the same mentality as you. Not playing against a wee guy that's shattered, had a pot noodle and he's coming to make a name for himself on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? It's Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Dundee United shouldn't be in these environments.
Yeah.
Because it's a different sport. That's my take on it, mate.
Well, it's really interesting, mate. A very different take, because quite often what we hear is, you know, it's the positive side of it, and there's obviously multiple aspects to this debate. But Rangers are out of it now. It's just Celtic and Hearts that are in it, and presumably what will take the place of these games for that team is a sort of varied approach. There'll be elite games. I think Rangers are going to be playing Manchester United and Spurs and Arsenal and teams like that down south. Obviously, they'll play Celtic, and then there'll be the various youth setups and the youth leagues as well to take it over and to give you more games. Plus, there'll be the league, the sort of the lower league cup, things like that'll add it out and give you an element of different tests. But I think what you say is actually right about the reserve league. There is some need to bring together proper professional footballers and the youth players and give them a taste of what it's actually all about, because that's the thing that if you speak to ex-pros like yourself, that you always get back from the 80s and the 90s when they came through, is those harsh lessons that you learn going up against somebody who's experienced. And it might not have been harsh lessons, it might have gone very well, but you still learned from it. And I
remember I played against Owen Coyle at Tannadice, and he was playing in the reserves. And halfway line, the game had stopped. Chatting away, aye, how you doing, son? Aye, how you doing? Spun him behind me because he'd made eye contact with the guy who then put his hand on the ball and just flipped it in behind me. I was like, oh, now that's just cute.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm playing against the guy who's born at Rick Rose, he's not doing that.
No.
So it's, I think put elite young footballers in elite environments. And if it's a financial thing with Scottish clubs and that, go and pay a Clyde to go and play at their stadium. You know, share the wealth. You know, they'll get a turn if it's a Rangers Hearts game.
Yeah.
You know, be things like this, mate. I don't know. It shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah.
Arranging tournaments down in England, arranging tournaments abroad, a Lowland Cup. You know, that's a logistical nightmare. Just a league that replicates what it is to be a Rangers player or a Hearts player.
Yeah.
40 games a season, playing against your peers.
See, when you look back, Mo, at when you came through, what was the one thing that stood out in the guys that actually made the grade, made the first team?
Mentality. Mentality, honestly.
Was it an obsession? Obsession with the game? Obsession with self-betterment?
Yeah. Obviously, there's varying degrees of that. I mean, you look at a boy like Stephen Hughes, just phenomenal talent. But again, phenomenal fitness. He can ping 60 yards with his left foot, roll it out, bang. Bob Malcolm, exceptional talent. The Bob wasn't maybe as physical as the other boys, but read the game, could pass a ball 60 yards, three iron, bang. But mentality, strong. And the ones that maybe had strong mentality, like a Pizzo, a Peter McDonald, still went and had a brilliant career at Dundee, St Johnstone, but he had a strong mentality and he knew what when it kick off on a Saturday, yeah, Pizzo would do 9 push-ups instead of 10. But when it came on a Saturday or playing Celtic or whatever, he was on, and it was mentality. So I say that's the biggest thing. If you're going to be a Rangers player, you need to be mentally strong.
Just one last question for you, mate, and I'll let you get on. You've been brilliant with your time. I just wanted to ask about looking back. You know, for me, I'm 41. I look back at that period you were in that team. There can't have been too many times that it was more difficult to break through for a young kid at that point. Do you kind of get the sense of the magnitude of that era looking back now with maybe 20 years distance?
Do you know what, mate? I kind of feel... no, but do you know what? If you play with Rangers for 8 seasons, it's the best time of your life, mate. So how can I have any regrets? Jesus Christ. Would I have shut up on a few occasions? Yeah, I should. Yeah, definitely. Should I have stayed in on a Tuesday instead of going out? Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's the best time of my life, mate. And I miss the football club every day. I still miss it, mate. I still think of Rangers every single day. And I just hope one day I could put something back in terms of on a coaching front, because I think I could really help youngsters, first team players, understand football better than they maybe do at the moment. I really do. I really believe that from the bottom of my heart. I hope that doesn't sound conceited, but my gift is coaching. My gift wasn't being a football player. My gift's coaching, and that's how I hand on my heart feel every day. Yeah.
Well, I think anyone watching this will be right behind you, mate, and will be keen to see you back at the club in any capacity, because clearly you've got the passion for it and the knowledge. We know, obviously, from your time with Motherwell when you did really well, that you've clearly got the coaching chops. So, aye. But listen, thanks for coming on. It's been great to talk to you. It's been fantastic for you to spend some time here on the Rangers Review, and we'll catch up again some point soon.
And here's to a good season.
Here's to a good season, mate. Thanks.
Thank you, Johnny. Cheers, pal.